but hopefully we can get through this quickly. But the truth is that I need to lay out exactly how we got into this crisis to begin with, for people to truly understand the impacts. As I've been saying since last year when I visited the southern border last May, this has been a manufactured crisis by the Biden administration. I want to be able to lay out the actions that were taken by the president so people understand what needs to be done, and a lot of it is repealing his policies, but we also offer other solutions as well. So first, when Joe Biden took office on January 20th, he signed 2 immigration-related executive orders that revoked Trump-era policies that cracked down on shielding undocumented immigrants from deportation. On February 5th, 2021, Biden reinstated catch and release programs at the southern border, which allowed people to stay in the country, anywhere in the country, as they await court dates. On February 11th, Biden formally terminated Trump's emergency declaration at the southern border, and he stopped construction of the barriers at our border. And then in April 2021, he canceled any remaining border barrier contracts or projects. In the summer of 2021, the Biden administration began transporting migrants via airplane from the southern border to other parts of the country, including right here in New York. And then in August 9th, 2022, the Biden administration ended the Remain in Mexico policy after a lengthy Supreme Court battle, which allows individuals to be released into the U.S. while they wait for their court hearings. So, as a result of the policies put in place by President Biden, we are now facing a crisis of epic proportions, where we are seeing the largest number ever in illegal crossings at our southern border. In 2021, for the first time in history, migrant encounters at the southern border surpassed 2 million people in a single fiscal year. Since Biden took office, there have been nearly 3.6 million migrant encounters at the border, and this does not include the nearly 1 million individuals that are known gotaways estimated by the Customs and Border Protection. Again, the most ever recorded. So, under the Biden administration, we have seen nearly over almost 5 million individuals cross into our country illegally. Now, there is a very small number of that overall 4.5 million that are legitimate asylum seekers. And it is incredibly important that we differentiate between those individuals who qualify for asylum and those that don't. As a matter of fact, the sector border chiefs have told members of Congress that roughly 95% of the individuals crossing the southern border do not qualify for asylum. And if you look at the stats over the years, it's never really been more than 20% that have qualified for asylum. So we have to differentiate. I think one of the biggest problems is that we do not have adequate number of judges and asylum officers at the border to deal with the influx that is coming through. And so, just to give you an example, last year in 2021, there were roughly 35,000 people that were approved for asylum or for refugee status. Now think about that. 2 million people crossing in, 35,000 people were approved for legitimate asylum and refugee claims. So I think it's also important for the public to understand what is the definition of an asylum applicant. They must show a well-founded fear of persecution in their country, nationality, and permanent residency. They must prove that they would be persecuted on account of at least one of 5 protected grounds: race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or particular social group. Poverty, scarce economic opportunities, displacement caused by natural disasters, or a desire to reunite with family are not grounds for asylum under United States law. Now, current Currently, migrants who cross the border between the official ports of entry are detained and given a background check. Some are deported under Title 42 while due process is required for others before they are sent home. The issue that we have right now, because of the influx and open border policy that President Biden created, the backlog in the immigration court system has increased to historic proportions, with 1.9 million pending cases and only 600 administration judges to hear these cases. And of those, there are about 750,000 asylum cases, most who have been pending over the last 5 years. So, my point being that the 4 million people crossing into our country through the southern border, and the vast majority of them, the overwhelming majority of them, are not legitimate asylum seekers. And this administration is not differentiating between the two, which is creating chaos. By not having order at the border, by not having an adequate number of asylum officers and judges to hear these claims at the point of entry, by not having the appropriate number of Customs and Border Protection agents, which is only 20,000 is what we have right now, how can you possibly deal with this influx of 4 million individuals over the last less than 2 years? Since May of 2022, only 99 migrants have completed these interviews and have been fully evaluated under Biden's rules. Of the 99, only 24% only 24 of them, quarter of them, were granted asylum. It goes back to my point once again that the vast majority of these individuals do not qualify for asylum, and therefore they shouldn't be allowed to further enter the country without going through the appropriate immigration process. Now, a couple of the solutions that the Republicans have offered. One is those executive orders that I mentioned at the beginning, the actions that President Biden took in the first few months, in the first year of him taking office, they need to be repealed. It's unsustainable what is happening right now. Cities all across America are feeling the burden of this unmanageable crisis, and we need the president to revoke those policies. Secondly, Republicans have introduced our Border Security for America Act. Our Border Security for America Act would continue the construction of the barriers, would also provide the CBP and the Border Patrol with the tools that they have been begging for. They've been asking for technology support. They've been asking to hire and train more CBP agents. They've been asking for additional resources to stop some of the drug trafficking taking place, the canine units, agricultural specialists, water protection and remediation. All of that is what the CBP is saying they need to do their job, and we must give it to them. In addition to that, we need to desperately add judges at our southern border and asylum officers to hear these claims, to differentiate between the legitimate asylum claims and those that are not. We need to end the catch and release that the president is allowing. We need to strengthen the asylum process to protect legitimate claims and prevent fraudulent claims, and strengthen the process to ensure that those seeking asylum safely apply in a safe country from where they are traveling, not waiting to apply in the United States. We must also end the abuse of parole authority. The president yesterday announced that they will allow 25,000 individuals from Venezuela to apply. They can do so in the next country that is safe for them. This way they don't have to come to the United States to do it. We should be expanding that so people can do it from the country that they're in and not do it from within the United States. And we have to ensure that by the way, with Venezuela, what they do is you have to require a sponsor gonna keep it brief because I know it's raining. I don't want to take too much of your time, but we'll send you the release that outlines all the different individual steps. I've summarized the majority of them, and I will send out the release that really outlines it in a little more detail. The bottom line is that this has been a manufactured crisis, and it started with the president's executive orders, and we have to end it today. And if we just do the measures that I mentioned today, we will be able to secure what is happening at the southern border. We're going to stop the flow of migration that has gotten out of control. We'll make sure that we protect those legitimate asylum seekers so that way they can be approved more swiftly. We don't have other individuals who are just looking to beat the system and cut the line and inundating the immigration process. And we have to add more judges to hear these as soon as possible. I'll turn it over to my...
Good afternoon. My name is David Carr. I'm the council member for the 50th District here in Staten Island, the Mid-Island of the borough. I just want to thank the Congresswoman for her leadership, as always, on this issue. I'm in complete agreement with everything that she said needs to be done. And the fact is, Staten Islanders know, and the Congresswoman's been saying it, I've been saying it, all my elected colleagues have been saying it, this border crisis is the fault of Joe Biden. The reason it has spilled over into the United States is because of his failure to maintain policies that were instituted in the Donald Trump presidency. If Joe Biden had maintained those policies, the Remain in Mexico policy, we would not be in the situation that we are in today. And what's funny is now he even knows it because there are reports that he is now looking to bring back some version of that policy and to keep migrants on the other side of the border in Mexico while they await their asylum claim process, as the Congresswoman was detailing. So as a result of his failure, our communities are being swamped. New York City is facing a $1 billion budget hole as a result of the support that it's now providing to the migrant community. We have 2 hotels in Travis, in my district, that are filled with migrant families that should not be there. That is not the place where they need to be taken care of. They should have been able to stay in Mexico while they awaited to see if they had a rightful claim to asylum per federal law. That's what should have happened. That's not what's been happening. And until the border crisis is resolved, we're going to continue to face additional influx of individuals into New York City who are trying to take advantage of our city's unfortunate sanctuary status, courtesy of Bill de Blasio in his 8 years as mayor. So I thank the Congresswoman for her leadership. I stand with her, and I stand with the people in Travis who are enduring this burden. Thank you.
I'd like to add that there are 26% of those individuals that crossed this past year. They had been previously deported, and they just continued to ignore our nation's laws and chose to return. And that is substantially more than the figure that you saw under both President Obama and President Trump. 7% had attempted to return under President Trump and 12% under President Obama. I suspect that it is the open ports of entry that are not being monitored by CBP that they are attempting to cross into. And they just assume they'll keep trying until they actually get through, which is why the million individual figure, which is the gotaways, that we don't know who they are, where they're from, what their intentions are, that's the real number that we also need to be concerned about. But again, we want to be compassionate toward those who are seeking asylum for legitimate reasons. And my mother's a kid refugee, and this is why I stress this. We want to be compassionate to the people who are truly deserving of asylum. We would stop this flow of illegal migration at the border, so that way these individuals, the 4 million number, is not inundating and clogging up the immigration system. And instead, those true asylum seekers can be heard and approved swiftly so they can work and support their families. I'd like to introduce, with that, Michael Malliotakis, our Assemblyman.
Thank you, and I want to thank our Congresswoman leading the charge on this issue. And, you know, make no mistake about it, this is a failure of our federal government not to continue the policies previously imposed by President Trump, not to have any type of order, at our borders. And for the first time, our community is now seeing the effects of that, having hundreds of people here that the city of New York, or the state of New York for that matter, does not have the proper resources to help. And that's what we're facing. As if New York City didn't have any other issues, we are now facing an issue caused directly by our federal government. And I don't see the federal government knocking on our door, telling the city of New York, here you go, this is what you're going to use to fix the situation. I don't see any of that happening. It's a travesty. It is a complete travesty. These are families, and we understand they need help. But we do not have the capability to support them in New York City right now. We had a meeting a few days ago with the Department of Homeless Services, and it became very apparent very quickly that DHS is overwhelmed. They do not have the capabilities of dealing with these migrants while they're also dealing with the homeless issue in New York City. So we implore the federal government to fix this and fix it now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and want to acknowledge a few individuals who have joined us here today. We have Anthony Reinhardt representing State Senator Andrew Lanza. We have community leaders Joseph Tyrone, and we also have community leader Sam Pirazzolo. And we are joined by the president of the Civic Association. Gene, would you like to say, I see you have some notes there. Would you like to say a few words? President of the Travis Civic Association, where the current migrants on Staten Island are being housed.
First of all, thank you very much, Nicole, for all of your efforts. What we're attempting to do, hopefully will be successful. First and foremost, I want everybody to know that Travis is a big-hearted community. Not that we welcome these people, but as they began entering our hotels, they went around knocking on doors, asking for donations, food, clothing, and whoever can give, gave. Okay? That's number one. Number two, though, is Travis is simply not that area that these migrants should have been placed in. Our mayor knew from marching in our 4th of July parade the makeup of Travis. Travis is approximately 1 square mile. It's all residential homes with families, with children, and these parents now are in fear of what might happen because these folks have nowhere to go. So what do? They walk around the neighborhood. These parents were used to leaving their children home while they're out to work. They're deathly afraid now. They're afraid to go out and leave their homes unprotected because they simply don't know. As the Congresswoman had pointed out, not everybody's an angel, coming across. There are only a handful of folks that came across our borders illegally that, you would trust. I would use the word trust. However, we don't know who they are. We've got 2 hotels at 90% capacity. These are not regular hotels. They're not Manhattan hotels. They're matchboxes. These hotels were built for a NASCAR track that never got built. So they were for weekenders back in 2005. So now they're cooped up in these rooms with the winter coming. We don't know if they're healthy. I don't know if they're examined when they come over, what the examinations are like. Their children are going to be placed in our schools, our local schools. We don't know if they've been immunized. Our children need to be immunized. We don't know that. We couldn't get an answer from DHS. We didn't at a community board meeting. We don't know the numbers of children that are coming into our classrooms. It's simply out of control, as has been mentioned by everybody that spoke. And the mayor has to understand that Travis simply cannot sustain these types of numbers for 6 to 9 months. These are not 2 or 3 week stays. This is a 6 to 9 month contract, and we simply do not want it in Travis. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. They dropped the ball. They knew damn well that these folks were coming. They could have found better solutions than these 2 hotels in Travis. There are many places in New York owned by the city of New York that could have been used, that could have been made ready, because back a year or so ago when these planes started landing in Westchester, they knew then that the tide was coming in. So that being said, let me just go through a couple of things that we don't have in Travis so that you can get a picture. We have one small overcrowded school, PS 26, built in 1909. You draw the picture. A small playground that can handle maybe our community, but nothing more. No least a mile or two. No supermarkets, no laundromat, no restaurants. It's simply a small residential community that was placed with this burden now of probably 400 or 500 families. Do the math. I implore the mayor to rethink what he's done. If there's any way that he could turn this around, take these folks and put them somewhere else, it would be so gratefully appreciated, because Travis just will not accept it. We will not accept it. Right now it's peaceful. The folks in Travis are peaceful, but the natives are getting restless, I can tell you that. And I really don't want to see anything negative come from this. Travis is a beautiful community, a patriotic community, and that's the way I want it to stay. It may not stay like that very long. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you. As you can see, look, people are obviously very frustrated. The mayor has not to date said or called on our president to stop this influx that we're seeing at the border. If 95% of the people crossing, according to our sector border patrol, telling us that they're illegitimate asylum claims, the mayor should be joining our calls and saying to stop this madness and secure the border. I'm joined today by immigrants too. We have individuals from Albania, from Egypt. My parents are from Cuba and Greece. It's not about immigration. We are the most generous, welcoming nation. My parents are immigrants. I've helped 78 individuals become United States citizens in just a year and a half that I've been in office. 78 people from over 25 countries. I would compare that to any other member in the country. It's not about immigration. We welcome legal immigration. I've helped those individuals because they were individuals who followed the rules. They played by the rules. They respected our laws, our borders. And yet they were stuck in red tape and bureaucracy. So we helped them get over the top. But we need to differentiate between what is legal immigration, what is illegal immigration, and from those who are crossing into our border, differentiate between illegal immigration and those who have legitimate asylum claims. But at the current rate of 4 million people, you can't possibly do that, not with 600 judges. And so we ask for the mayor and all the elected officials to join us in calling on the president to just reinstate policies that were working, add judges to hear these claims, and let's differentiate. Let's make sure that the 5 to 20% that are legitimate asylum seekers, that they can be welcomed, and that the others are not allowed in because they're inundating the system, and that's why we need the border security. I'd like to introduce, I see our borough president has joined us, who's been very vocal in advocating for the community, borough president Vito Vasella.
Thank you, Congresswoman, and we're just here once again standing united in solidarity, not just on the Persian conservative regime, people of Travis who woke up one day and saw folks just walking the streets, knocking on doors, looking for food and shelter and money. And I can't sort of blame those looking for food and shelter, but the reality is the policy just doesn't work. The policy is unsustainable. We've said that since day one. Unfortunately, the mayor has come around to say the same thing. And we've said that they create this problem, and people said not only create this problem, but yet we're forced to deal with it and solve it. Again, the mayor has come around and said that we didn't create it. So let's highlight and focus on what's important, as the Congresswoman just said. Almost 20 years ago, we had a similar situation at the border, but it wasn't as bad. There was an effort at least to try to stop the flow of the illegal immigration. Again, to distinguish between legal and illegal. Illegal is essential here. But now nobody cares. It seems like the folks in D.C. just don't care. And when they don't care, people on Staten Island suffer. So I think it's a federal issue. It warrants a federal solution. Last night we moved to the governor to declare a state of emergency, to call upon this as a FEMA-like emergency. And that's the only way the funding is going to come out of Washington. In the meantime, Staten Island taxpayers have to bear the brunt of this. New York City taxpayers have to bear the brunt of this. We have no idea what the price tag is yet. Could be $1 billion, could be $2 billion. So I'm going to give credit to the Congress. this problem. The people of Travis and the people of Staten Island really don't